Welcome to Carolina's Cottage. This is Johnny. I think you're really going to enjoy today's projects. These are perfect pastels for summer decorating. I'm bringing you a few thrifted items that I've refreshed by using chalk paint and stamps. The first piece was something probably purchased from Hobby Lobby. It has a replica of a vintage photograph that I'll be replacing with a print. After cleaning this piece, I used 2 coats of Paint Couture's chalk style paint. The colors I chose are Farmhouse Linen and the trim is Driftwood. The Driftwood color is very close to the color that was on it, but it has a little bit more brown in it. And I just wanted to update the color a bit as well as cover any stains or scratches that were on the piece. Once this piece was dry, I did put a clear matte finish top coat over this. I want to give this piece a look that resembles toile fabric, so I'll be using IOD stamps to create a subtle pattern. I will list the name of the 2 stamp sets in the description below. I'm using a few pieces from 2 sets I have on hand, and you could use a combination of whatever you have on hand to create your own distinct theme that fits your preferences and your budget. I did a dry run first of these pieces without ink just to help me figure out the right placement and the right balance. After applying the animal-themed stamps where I wanted them, I used the small lattice-shaped stamp to fill in the spaces. I only partially inked the stamp, and I let the edges sort of fade away to give the effect of a faded or a distressed look. I also did additional stamping without re-inking the stamp to add to that distressed look. The additional stamping without re-inking the stamp again prevents those harsh lines on the edges and helps it look like it's fading away into the background. The print that I'm using in this piece is free from the graphics fairy, and again it keeps our piece from being too expensive, and there are a lot of good free printables on the graphics fairy. I will put that website in my description below. Now all this piece needs is a little bit of antiquing gel so that it has that distressed old look. I try to be frugal when I'm crafting, and I want to pass along tips that I have for saving money, whether it's using free sources for artwork or adapting what you already have on hand. When you're thrifting, watch for some of the older wooden stamps for your projects. Hobby Lobby also has a good selection of smaller stamps that are inexpensive. I am also providing a link to Paint Couture's website called All Paint Products, where you can get 10% off their products if you use my link. Their website has much more than paint. I'll put the link in the description below this video. The shade for this antiquing gel is Weathered Wood. I want to remind you to please give this video a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would love to hear your comments and feedback, so please add that below as well. Now, I love the old world look of this next piece. I really wanted to keep it this way, but I did not have room to keep it myself, and I knew based on experience for what sells in my space that this would not make it in those colors. So I decided to give it a more shabby chic or cottage look by using Farmhouse Linen and French Rose on this piece. I did use a primer on this piece before I painted it to prevent bleed through from an oil-based paint or stain. Since I couldn't find exactly what I wanted in the stamp sets I have, I trimmed one of my stamps to get the look I wanted. I caution you not to do this unless you feel comfortable doing it, since these stamps are a fairly significant investment. But I've been using my stamps long enough to know that I will not likely use a swag shape, and if I want one in the future, I feel comfortable putting the two pieces of the stamp back together. Cutting this piece gave me the size and the look that I wanted. Make sure to touch every piece of the stamp when applying these. You don't have to press hard, but you do need to make sure that all areas of the stamp come into contact with your piece. It's also a nice touch to wrap the stamp around the edge. This piece was an easy makeover. It's already the right color and I love the detail. I'm just going to give it a new coat of chalk paint to hide the scratches and stains, apply a few IOD stamps, and seal it with a flat, clear top coat. These were stamps from two different sets, and I'm always very pleased with how these turn out. This next piece was the most time consuming, but I knew that going into it, and I do think it was worth it. It required several coats of chalk paint to cover the dark colors, and I added a lot of detail. I did a remake of the design that was already there. I just wanted to change the colors to pastels. I used a combination of stamps for what would be their dresses. This one is a stamp from one of the IOD sets. On the other ones, I used some older wooden stamps that I had either picked up at Hobby Lobby or I had thrifted. Next, I painted two black ovals for each one. While that was drying, I used IOD stamps along the front of the box. You'll notice I had to correct a few mistakes as I went. Some areas of the stamp didn't make good contact, so I touched those up. and then I cleaned up some smudges with a wet wipe. I used just the tips of some of the small roses and some of the leaves to fill in the empty spots. I felt like this color was a little bit dark for the pastel theme that I was going for, so I watered down a little white paint and painted it over these dark colors. To complete the eyes, I painted light blue along the side and lower edge of each eye, and then placed a small dot of white paint in the upper portion of each eye using just the tip of the paintbrush handle. And I used the same technique on the sleeves. Very simple, and it's just the right amount of detail. I used a small wooden scripture stamp that I had thrifted, and these girls have a new look. The next piece was another simple makeover. It was already a color I like and a perfect summer pastel, so I gave it a fresh coat of Paint Couture's French Rose, and I used IOD Stamps to create a cottage theme for this piece. I used gray ink in keeping with the soft summer colors I want to stay with. The lattice stamp was perfect around this piece, and there was just enough room to add a border. The border stamp I used was an older IOD stamp I had on hand, but there's many options for stamping borders, or you could also use air dry clay and a mold to create a border with detail around the top. Just use what fits your style, what fits the piece, what fits your budget, and have fun with it. Enjoy the process and the creativity, and if it doesn't work, come back to it later. You can always repaint it or remake it. How simple was that to create this piece and all of these projects today? Please make sure you continue to visit other channels like Our Green Acres, Farm Fresh Designs 59, Our Shabby Cottage, Late Night Creations, Indie Annie Jones, and a few others that I've befriended here as fellow creators. There are so many fabulous crafting and decor channels out there. You can help my channel grow by giving it a thumbs up and by subscribing. Thank you for watching today, and I will see you in the next video.